to Hey there, I am sending you this video because we have an upcoming timeline therapy session scheduled together, and I want to tell you what those sessions are going to be like, what you can expect, and everything you need to know about why it works and how it works. So watching this video beforehand is going to help you to get the best results from our sessions, and it's also going to save us a lot of time together, which of course saves you money too, so that's a great thing. And it also allows us to get right to work in our first session, which of course this ultimately helps you to create the change that you're wanting to make more quickly. So actually, let's start out by talking a little bit about change itself. Have you ever made a really big change in your life? I'm sure you have. We all have. And sometimes we find that change can come very quickly and sometimes not as quickly. So years ago, I found a mass that the doctors were pretty concerned about. And I immediately, like overnight, was able to start changing so many different things in my life. I stopped eating all types of sugar and junk food. I cleaned up my diet. I worked on my sleep schedule, getting more sleep. I adjusted my stress levels. And it was really easy and almost effortless to make these changes because I was so totally motivated. But then, there's also those other times when change isn't quite as easy. When you want to quit a behavior like stopping smoking, or you want to start a behavior like exercising, or maybe you just want to change a behavior like maybe changing the way that you respond to your spouse. Maybe you want to become less triggered. And maybe with these changes that you've wanted to make, you've had really good intentions to make these changes, but then you find yourself coming up short. You find yourself coming up against so much resistance that when you make these changes, it just doesn't stick. So what is that all about? Well, first of all, you're not alone. We've all been there. We've all experienced that. Resistance is relentless, right? So why is it? Why do we experience so much resistance when it comes to making change? Well, resistance is an old, deeply ingrained wiring that all humans possess to really just help us to avoid discomfort. And not only is it hardwired into all of us, we further solidify that wiring every time we succumb to that resistance. So resistance is really just simply trying to protect us from feeling discomfort. But the problem is that it's an illusion. It's not actually protecting us at all. And to expose resistance as the illusion that it is, we have to see resistance for what it is. Resistance is the same as resisting growth. The thing that you're resisting is growth. And to get where you want to go, you're going to need to grow. So right now you're in a place where you want to change, you're doing a particular behavior, or you have a certain model of the world and you want to be in a different place with a different behavior and a different model of the world, right? But how do we get there? Well, there are 3 steps to creating all change. It doesn't matter what the change is that you're wanting to make. The steps are all the same. Would you like to know what those steps are? Well, first you have to let go of the past. Step 1 is to let go of the past negative emotions, past resentments, past hurts, past fears, past limiting beliefs. And here's the thing about past negative emotions. Past negative emotions serve no positive purpose in the present, none whatsoever. In fact, just the opposite. The fact is that our inner world shapes our outer world. Anything that we're holding on to from the past is indeed shaping our thoughts, shaping our feelings, and thereby creating our reality in the present moment. These negative emotions from the past shape and change our reality by filtering our present life's experiences through the lens of that baggage. And this is what is creating your personal reality. In fact, it's estimated that by the time we are 35 years old, humans have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, 90% of those thoughts are the same as yesterday because our brains like familiarity. It likes to think and act and feel the same every single day in order to save on energy and because it thinks it keeps us safe that way. But how are we going to change anything in our life if we keep thinking and feeling and acting the same way as we did yesterday? The answer is that we can't. To change our behaviors, we have to change how we feel. And to change how we feel, we have to change how we think. But to change how we think, we have to let go of the past. So to create change, the first step is always letting go. The second step in creating real and lasting change is to get clear about what we want and having a specific goal or intention and taking massive action on that goal. And then the third step is in creating change is to remain focused on that goal while keeping yourself in certain states that are going to be able to help you to achieve that goal. Now, I'm not going to really be elaborating, at least in this video, on number 2 and number 3 at this moment. Those are going to be for later. Right now, what we're going to talk about is just step 1, which is that letting go of the past, because that's what timeline therapy is all about. With timeline therapy, we can let go of past negative emotions. We can let go of past limiting decisions that are limiting our potential. And we can let go of these things that are currently shaping our reality. So what does that actually mean to shape reality? Well, let me tell you about something called the NLP model of communication. So every second of every day, science believes that we are bombarded with about 2 million or more incoming messages that come in via the nervous system every second. So through our 5 senses, meaning what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, there are potentially 2 million bits of information every second. But consciously, we cannot handle that. It's far too much. We can only pay attention to about 126 bits of that 2 million bits of information. So this means we have to, in a sense, blur out a lot of details in order to be able to pay attention to what we deem to be most important. That means that part of our reality is always going to be deleted and distorted. In fact, Patrick Kavanagh, who is a renowned neuroscientist, said that it is really important to understand that we're not seeing reality. We are seeing a story that has been created for us. So my good friend Nathan is a great photographer. And as you probably know, photography tells a story, doesn't it? And a skilled photographer gets to decide how to compose the story of the photograph by how he draws your attention to certain elements in the photo. And Nathan said to me once, he said, sometimes an unskilled photographer will just blur out everything in the background to force your attention and your awareness to maybe a beautiful face that is the subject of the photo. But a more skilled photographer knows how to open the lens and expand the frame so that the details aren't necessarily removed, but instead they're skillfully utilized as elements that complement the story. So coming back to the idea that our reality is a story that's being constructed based on what we are able to perceive and based on what we're deleting, how do we change our lens so that we can choose the right elements that best serve us? That's the magic question. Because either way, we can't consciously witness everything that is happening in our reality. We're only going to be able to get roughly 126 bits of the 2 million bits of information. So the question becomes, are we focusing our lens on all the reasons why we can't accomplish something? Are we blurring out and missing opportunities and missing connections that would help us achieve that goal? Or are we focusing our lens on capturing the opportunities the people, the connections, and the information that would most help us in getting that goal. And this is what timeline therapy can do for us. By letting go of the past and the past hurts, we tell our brain, don't focus here on those past hurts. Focus there. Focus on the opportunities. Don't stay stuck in this old loop, that old way of thinking. Don't ruminate on these old past hurts and these old parts. Let these things go so that we can open up your lens to seeing something new. Now, you might be asking, what tells the brain where to focus? What tells the brain which 126 bits to pay attention to? And if you are wondering that, that is a very good thing to wonder. So kind of imagine, right, on a camera, there's that focusing ring. The focusing ring on your mind's camera is what we sometimes refer to as your filters. These filters consist of your past experiences, your beliefs, and whether those beliefs are resourceful or unresourceful. The filters also consist of these past negative emotions that you've had in your life, and also your beliefs and your values. These are all the things that hone your focus, that tell your brain, right, that focusing ring, what to perceive, where to focus, and then what also to blur or to delete or distort. And this process of filtering is all done unconsciously. And you've heard, haven't you, that you have an unconscious mind, have you not? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about your unconscious mind now, because it's important for you to understand a little bit about that and in terms of how this whole process works. So your unconscious mind is about 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. See, our conscious mind says something like, you know what? I want to change X in my life. My conscious mind says, I want to make more money. I want to lose weight. I want to stop smoking. I want to maybe meet the partner of my dreams or have an amazing relationship. So your conscious mind says these things because your conscious mind is the goal setter. Your conscious mind says, I want X. But because of everything I've just explained to you about how our reality is a story that's being constructed for us, the conscious mind is not in charge of whether or not you actually achieve that thing that you have set out to do. Your unconscious mind is responsible. So we say your conscious mind is the goal setter, but your unconscious mind is actually, by constructing your reality, is the actual goal getter. So whatever is in the unconscious mind, whatever patterns, whatever triggers, whatever baggage, unresolved negative emotions, whatever those things are that are present in the unconscious mind, that is what will determine whether or not you will reach that goal. And that's why we say the mind is the instrument by which we create everything. One of my very favorite quotes is by Carl Jung, and he said that the psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. In other words, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will think it's fate. See, the unconscious mind is incredible. And it has some really important responsibilities. And I want to tell you about some of these responsibilities now as they relate to timeline therapy. So the unconscious mind runs the body. It preserves the body. It keeps us safe. It protects us. And the unconscious mind is also responsible for storing all of our memories. It has a black box, sort of like a black box on an airplane, that is recording every event that has ever happened to us in our life. Even when we can't consciously remember an event, it's there. It is stored in the unconscious mind. So just a quick story to illustrate that. Many years ago, a doctor was looking for a cure or a solution for epilepsy. And he was performing brain surgery on a woman. And when a part of her brain was stimulated, she had instant recall of her second birthday, something that she had completely lost conscious memory of. I mean, who remembers that far back, right? But she did. She had perfect recall of the smell of her birthday cake, the dress that she wore, and even how that dress felt on her skin. She could remember her parents exactly as they looked all those years before. So our memories are there, whether we consciously remember them or not. And some scientists have now theorized that these memories aren't just stored in the brain, but they're actually stored in every cell of our body. And our unconscious mind is responsible for the storage of these memories. And it does so along something that we call a timeline. So imagine, remember back in school, those timelines that we made of events. So something like that, your unconscious mind has a record of your life and all the events within your life going all the way back into the womb. So what are some of the other things your unconscious mind can do? Well, the unconscious mind is also the domain of our emotions. So even though we feel emotions consciously, they are generated and they're controlled by the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind can also take these memories and it can repress memories and experiences that have associated unresolved negative emotions. But the thing is, these hidden memories and emotions aren't gone. They may be hidden from the conscious mind for a time, but they still exist and they still can cause harm and they can cause stress to the body. So it's believed that these repressed emotions can actually lead to a number of physical and mental health issues. And since one of the prime jobs of the unconscious mind is to protect the body, the unconscious mind is always going to try to present these memories to us so that we can resolve them or reconcile them, so that we can heal, so that we can become more whole. And so the reason why I'm telling you this and the reason why it's useful to understand a bit more about the unconscious mind is because when we do timeline therapy, you will be learning how to communicate with your own unconscious mind. And you'll be learning a new way of listening to your unconscious mind for answers. See, your conscious mind will be asking questions, but the answers are going to come from your unconscious mind. And through this process, you'll be discovering what the root causes are of past unresolved negative emotions. You'll discover root causes of limiting beliefs for you. And if you choose, you'll be able to reframe these experiences and let these things totally go easily and effortlessly. And how will that impact your life? Well, going back to our earlier example of the camera frame, it allows you to see more opportunities, to see more connections, to see more solutions. It helps you to construct a different reality by paying attention to a different set of 126 bits. It also teaches you how to really know yourself and trust yourself in ways that you probably never have before. I've watched clients with years of PTSD walk out of my office free of fear and panic after maybe just 3 or 4 sessions. I've watched phobias vanish after even just 1 session. I've seen lifelong guilt and shame melt away, allowing individuals to finally be free of people pleasing. In working with couples, this is particularly helpful for reducing defensiveness and helping manage reactivity, because those responses are usually related to triggers in relationships. And we all have triggers, don't we? We all have trigger buttons that get pushed in our relationships. And these trigger buttons were installed in our psyche when we were young by all sorts of experiences and traumas and micro traumas. So one of the main goals of growing up and emotionally maturing should be, at least for all of us, should be to unwire these buttons so that when they do get pressed later in our relationships as adults, there is no reaction anymore. And healing and letting go of the past is the way to do exactly that. So this was just an introduction, and you're going to learn more about the exact process in our first session. The only thing you really need to take away from this video right now is this. If you have ever found yourself having inappropriate bursts of emotion, like suddenly crying out of nowhere, or getting angry, or feeling irrational fear, or easily getting defensive, or finding yourself people-pleasing when you don't want to, I promise you there's a reason. There is something in your programming from your past that is contributing to that reaction and to those behaviors. And timeline therapy is one of the most powerful ways I have found to change that behavior at an unconscious level, so to make that change actually permanent for once. The last thing I want you to know before our session is that I'm only your guide. I have no power to make anyone do anything. I'm not a magician, okay? The work that we're going to be doing together is a do with process, which simply means I will be doing the process with you. But it is actually you who makes the change. Therefore, the responsibility for change falls on your shoulders. And this is what true empowerment really is. For every person, myself included, for all of us, we can only change by taking responsibility through self-confrontation. We have a choice we have to always make. Either we can get results through confronting our own baggage, confronting our old patterns, or we can have reasons for why we're not getting the results that we want, which happens when we continue to choose blame of others, or blame of circumstances. But we cannot have both results and reasons simultaneously. We have to choose. So the best way for you to prepare for our first session is to come with a totally open mind and a willingness to take full responsibility for getting results. You know, one of the first questions I'll probably ask you, and maybe I'll just ask you now, is what are you willing to do to have this problem disappear? And what are you not willing to do? These are very important questions. And if your answer is that you're willing to do whatever it takes, then I expect that you're going to have a life-changing experience when we work together. And I'm very excited to work with you. I'll see you soon.